Next on Currents News, the border battle heading to primetime television tonight. President Trump's address to the American people and the Democratic response will soon hit the airwaves. Healthcare for all in New York City. Mayor de Blasio announcing no one will go without coverage regardless of immigration status. Plus this.
Unplanned and upcoming theatrical release about abortion being pre-screened at the Cathedral of St. Joseph. Coming up, we speak with both the woman who inspired the movie and those who got a sneak peek.
A teenager from Our Lady of Lourdes Church in Queens Village was selected for an important role at the upcoming World Youth Day in Panama. I'm Tim Harfman, and I'll have the story.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. We're just 2 hours away from President Trump's primetime address to the nation about the border security crisis. Trump is trying to convince Americans he must get funding for a wall to end the ongoing government shutdown. But the president won't be the only one making a pitch to the American people tonight, and Camila Bernal has the latest on that from Washington.
As the government shutdown drags on, President Trump taking his push for a southern U.S. border wall to the national airways in his first primetime address from the Oval Office.
And we have an absolute crisis and of criminals and gang members coming through.
Hoping to make his case to Congress and the American people that his demand for $5.7 billion for a border wall is necessary to combat what he says is an immigration crisis at the border.
It is national security. It's a national emergency.
The wall at the crux of the second largest government shutdown on record. Some 800,000 federal workers are furloughed or working without pay, and scores of government services are stopped or curtailed.
I just want the government to be back up and running, and I want to get back to work and earn my paycheck.
Trump hoping to ramp up the pressure on Democrats as negotiations on Capitol Hill are at a standstill.
Here we are in the third week of the Trump shutdown. Why? It's only because of one person, and that is President Trump.
Before the president heads to the border Thursday, critical questions now: who blinks first, and the president's next moves, including the possibility of Trump declaring a national emergency to bypass Congress to secure funding for the wall.
I think it would be a huge mistake to declare a national emergency. There is no national emergency.
To me, injecting a new element into this just makes it more complicated.
Camila Bernal, Currents News.
Every New York City resident will soon have guaranteed health care regardless of immigration and financial status. Mayor Bill de Blasio made the announcement today, saying the plan would include primary and specialty care, as well as maternity, pediatric, and mental health services for all.
No one should have to live in fear. No one should go without the health care they need. Health care is a human right. In this city, we're going to make that a reality.
The plan is set to be rolled out later this year. The House of Representatives passed a bill that includes a provision to repeal President Trump's legislation preventing taxpayers from funding abortions around the world. The measure was added to a larger bill that aims to end the partial government shutdown. The Republican majority Senate is not expected to vote on the House bill. From Washington to Hollywood, a new movie that highlights the sanctity of life is about to hit the big screen. Unplanned is based on the true story of a former Planned Parenthood clinic director turned pro-life speaker. Abby Johnson visited the Diocese of Brooklyn today for a special screening. Currents News' Emily Drewby has the story from Prospect Heights.
Ashley Bratcher is playing Abby Johnson in the gut-wrenching new film Unplanned. The real-life Abby Johnson worked at Planned Parenthood for 8 years, but left in 2009 after witnessing something that changed her perception.
After witnessing a live ultrasound-guided abortion procedure on a 13-week-old baby, seeing that there was indeed humanity in the womb and that I was on the wrong side of this debate. So I left and have since then been really trying to expose what's happening inside of abortion clinics.
After leaving her job as a Planned Parenthood clinic director, Johnson became an influential pro-life activist. Now her story has been turned into a movie.
The hope is that, number one, people will see the reality of abortion, that the brand of Planned Parenthood will be chipped away, show what's really taking place inside of these clinics. The other hope is that it will bring hope to people who have had abortions, that there is forgiveness, there is mercy.
Johnson, along
along with Keith Mason, a member of the film's production team, previewing the movie for members of DeSales Media Group at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph.
To get, some sort of help, that's where there's the longevity.
Those who attended screened the film and then asked Johnson questions.
Yes, a very powerful film. It's helpful to kind of understand how film really does affect culture. And I think that this film will go a long way to helping to move the culture to kind of really see the evil of abortion.
Unplanned is scheduled to be released in over 800 theaters across the country on March 22nd. Johnson will also be speaking at March for Life, the world's largest pro-life event. A trailer for the film will also be shown there. In Prospect Heights, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
Still ahead in this newscast, Kathleen Gallagher, the director of pro-life activities for the New York State Catholic Conference, will join us. We'll get her reaction to a New York State act that could bolster abortion rights, even going so far as including them in the New York Constitution. Police in Bridgeport, Connecticut, still searching for the person responsible for scrawling a swastika on the city's cathedral. The Nazi symbol was discovered on the front doors of St. Augustine Cathedral last week. Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal condemned the vandalism as a hate crime. Investigators are still going through security footage from nearby businesses to find the vandal. Connecticut Bishop Frank Caggiano released a statement following the vandalization saying, quote, "I am deeply disturbed and outraged that someone would violate the sanctity of our church. We condemn the act. We condemn what it signifies, and we hope the perpetrator will be found." Catholic funeral services for the latest New York City firefighter to die in the line of duty will be held this week. Stephen Pollard, who had only been on his dream job for a year and a half, is being hailed a hero after responding to a car crash on the Bell Parkway's Mill Basin Bridge and falling to his death that day on Sunday night. The public is welcome to join family and friends as they gather to say their final goodbyes tomorrow at Marine Park Funeral Home from 7 to 9 p.m. and then on Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m. and then from 7 to 9 p.m. His funeral mass will be held at Good Shepherd Church in Marine Park this Friday at 11:30 a.m. Opus Dei, one of the most influential Catholic organizations, paid nearly $1 million to settle a case of sexual misconduct. The Washington Post reporting the complaint was settled in 2005 against Father C.J. McCloskey, one of the organization's most prominent priests. The accuser was reportedly receiving spiritual direction from McCloskey when the priest allegedly groped her on multiple occasions. Now in her 50s, the victim continues to be involved with Opus Dei and says she is satisfied with their handling of the case. The Arizona Sheriff's Department is under fire for how it treats migrant children at the border. Multiple videos have surfaced that appear to show adults physically abusing children in a detention center. Mike Pell has that report.
A circumstance that needs to be handled better.
Maricopa County Sheriff Paul Pinzone explaining missteps in his office's handling of the investigation into what's shown in these videos. Adults pushing and dragging children at a Southwest Key facility in September. It's a facility, since closed, that housed migrant children found crossing the border.
It is no secret that this office has failed children in the past. It is no secret that I have committed to putting children as the #1 priority. This does not meet my commitment. That falls on me.
Sheriff Pinzone says he does not believe it ill intent, explaining why it took more than 3 months for this case to end up with the county attorney. First, responding deputies wrote reports as though they were closed investigations, which wasn't the case. A detective sergeant noticed the mistake 8 days later.
This was something that was not handled thoroughly as it should have been, but it was not due, at least there's no information show right now, to the fact of the race of these children. But we will continue to look at that and other factors.
The investigation lasted into early December. Sheriff Pinzone says a district commander and other staff looked at Arizona law and closed the case, deciding it did not cross the threshold to a crime. The sheriff says that decision should have gone to those higher up in MCSO. I asked the sheriff when he first saw the videos.
First time I saw him was on the news.
The videos made public in late December. That's when MCSO decided to send the case to the county attorney's office for review.
Absolutely. It was the exposure that brought to the attention of this administration the shortcoming and led to us ensuring that we followed through to work with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office.
The Sheriff's Office plans to hire 2 people to act as auditors to ensure thorough investigations of these types of cases going forward. Mike Pelton, Arizona.
Sears has accepted an offer that could keep hundreds of still operating stores open. The retailer agreed on Tuesday to a revised takeover bid from its chairman, Edward Lampert. The move temporarily saves the company from liquidation procedures that would have marked the end of the 126-year-old operation. Lampert is now expected to submit a revised offer for the retailer, along with a $120 million deposit by January 9th. The deal also includes Kmart stores, which Sears owns. There's a lot more news headed your way. World Youth Day is just weeks away, and one lucky teen from Queens is getting quite the opportunity when she travels to Panama. Don't miss her story. Also ahead, a response to Governor Cuomo's proposed Reproductive Health Act that favors abortion activists. We'll ask Kathleen Gallagher about what it means for Catholics and what researchers are now saying about the rate of cancer deaths in the U.S. It's promising news. Do you have a story idea? Something happening in your parish we should know about? We want to hear from you. Keep this email handy, newstips@thesalesmedia.org. Email us. We'll be right back. Young Catholics are preparing to join Pope Francis in Panama for World Youth Day, a time to strengthen the future of the church. Currents News' Tim Harfman will travel with a delegation from the Brooklyn Diocese, and he's here now with a report on how they're getting ready. Tim.
Liz, the theme for World Youth Day is from Luke's Gospel. I am the servant of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word. One teenager from the Brooklyn Diocese will travel to Panama to serve in a special way in front of thousands of other pilgrims.
I just randomly received an email.
19-year-old Vivian Argati and her church's youth minister, Angelica Taveras, were preparing to attend World Youth Day in Panama when they received the news.
She's like, Angelica, I got this random email. I was like, let me see what it is.
It was from the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Vivian was selected to be a candle bearer at an adoration prayer service for U.S. pilgrims. Vivian, a sophomore at Hofstra University and a parishioner at Our Lady of Lourdes Church in Queens Village, couldn't believe her eyes.
At first I was like not sure. I was like, what is this? But then I obviously got more information about it and started reading more into it. And yeah, I was like, of course I'll do it.
Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you.
Nearly 8,000 teenagers and young adults will attend the day-long event featuring music, prayer, and fellowship.
Defense, my righteousness.
Cardinal Sean O'Malley of Boston will be presiding over the service.
I think she's perfect for it. The moment I knew she was chosen, I was like, oh, this is great. I think for her faith was very important. You know, she would continue to grow in her faith.
Vivian's pastor, Father Patrick Longalong, says it's an encounter she'll never forget.
I hope that the experience may inspire her to see the church as a whole, and that she can encourage other people to be able to reach out and understand that the church community is a very big community.
And this will be her first World Youth Day.
I know I'll definitely cherish the moment because I'll be in presence of God even more to be part of the adoration.
Vivian will be one of nearly 200 pilgrims attending from Brooklyn and Queens. The delegation is expected to be one of the largest groups at the worldwide gathering. Liz?
All right, Tim, thank you so much for that report. And Currents News will provide coverage of World Youth Day live from Panama later this month. National correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, and Tim Harfman will be on the ground to keep us up to date on everything World Youth Day starting January 24th. Governor Andrew Cuomo and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton want abortion rights included in the New York Constitution. The announcement came yesterday when the governor spoke in Manhattan, vowing to withhold support for the state budget until the legislature approves the Reproductive Health Act. That's a long-stalled bill that would bolster abortion rights and birth control coverage, respectively.
We'll pass it next year. We'll put it on the ballot. We'll write it into the Constitution, and we'll be able to say we have protected women's rights in a way no one else has before.
The legislature is expected to approve the Reproductive Health Act, thereby installing Roe v. Wade rights in state law and removing abortion from the penal code on January 22nd. The proposed Reproductive Health Act raises some concerns with pro-life forces. The director of pro-life activities at the New York State Catholic Conference, Kathleen Gallagher, opposes the bill, and she joins us now. Kathleen, Governor Cuomo made that announcement yesterday, ultimately promising to protect women's reproductive rights by expanding the state's abortion laws. Please break this down for us. What exactly is the New York State Reproductive Health Act?
Well, Liz, the proponents of the bill say it's just a simple update to New York's laws, which they say are outdated because New York legalized abortion 3 years before Roe versus Wade. But it's not a simple update. It's not a simple codification of Roe versus Wade. It's very extreme and radical and goes far beyond Roe versus Wade. For example, our current law says only a licensed physician may perform abortions. The Reproductive Health Act says any certified professional in the health industry can perform an abortion. That includes physician assistants and midwives, for example. They can perform early and late-term abortions, including surgical abortions. We think that's dangerous for women, not to mention their unborn children. So that's just one way how it goes way beyond. Roe versus Wade never gave permission for non-doctors to perform abortions.
Kathleen, could this legislation be amended to exclude the provision expanding abortion rights, making the proposal more in line with morally legitimate acts? Say perhaps the life of the mother is in danger if she carries to term, or the life of the unborn is in danger because of a cancerous womb.
Well, that's what our law currently does, Liz. That's the irony here. Currently, our law says abortion is legal through 24 weeks of pregnancy, but after that, only if the very life of the mother is endangered. The Reproductive Health Act puts a big health exception in there, and health has been defined by the courts to mean virtually anything. A girl's age, for example, her socioeconomic status, she wants to finish her education, whatever, that's a health reason. So virtually the Reproductive Health Act allows late-term abortions for any reason whatsoever.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton joined Governor Cuomo on stage yesterday. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
Last summer, when Congress confirmed a Supreme Court justice who wants to turn back the clock on women's rights, Governor Cuomo sent an unmistakable message that New Yorkers are not going back without a fight.
Now, Kathleen, that said, there is yet another layer to the proposal, which you touched upon briefly. The state of New York wants to add this to the state constitution. What will this mean for women's rights?
Well, that's not in the Reproductive Health Act. There's actually, the governor promises another proposal that would make abortion a state constitutional right. That would have to pass 2 sessions of the New York State Legislature and ultimately go on a referendum before the voters of New York State. That's not in the picture right now. He's just promising that down the road, but he's done that before and not made good on his promise. The threat right now is the Reproductive Health Act, and that's where we have to focus our energies to protest it.
And what does all of this, in the final end of this conversation, mean to Catholics?
Well, Catholics have been fighting this particular proposal, believe it or not, for 12 years. I can't believe it was first introduced by, you remember, Governor Spitzer in 2007. And believe me, we take great comfort here in knowing that we've prevented this from becoming law for 12 years. And Catholics around the state who have educated and witnessed and protested and come to Albany in great numbers, sent thousands and thousands of messages to their elected officials to protest this, they really can take comfort in that.
All right, Kathleen, we definitely will be revisiting this with you another time. It is always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
Measles cases are up in New York State. At least 160 people have gotten the virus. It's the highest level reached in 20 years, and health experts say it may get a lot worse. The hardest hit areas are Rockland County and Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, the Jewish Orthodox community has been impacted the most. 25 other states have also reported outbreaks. Officials are working to get more people in the high-risk areas vaccinated. And the rate of people dying from cancer in the United States has dropped. A new study by the American Cancer Society says cancer deaths have gone down steadily for 25 straight years. The decline is credited to several factors, one of them being the drastic decline in smoking. Also playing a role, better detection and medicinal advances. Also tonight, a stunning turn of events for a woman who was serving a life sentence for murder. Centoya Denise Brown killed the man who bought her to be his sex slave. Now, after spending 15 years behind bars, she will soon be set free. Andy Rose has the latest.
Justice has been served. Centoya has paid for a crime committed when she was a child enslaved to prostitution and sex trafficking.
30-year-old Centoya Brown has been granted clemency by Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam days before finishing his second term. His office putting out a statement saying, quote, "This decision comes after careful consideration of what is a tragic and complex case." Brown was serving a life sentence, requiring her to serve at least 51 years before she could be eligible for parole for killing and robbing a man who solicited her for sex when she was just 16. Brown said she shot him because she feared for her life while she was with him and only took money because she was afraid of returning to her pimp empty-handed.
Her circumstances were tragic. And that tragedy is something we can't forget. It led to tragic consequences.
Brown is scheduled to walk out of prison on August 7th, exactly 15 years to the day she was arrested. She says she already has a plan for when she gets out. In a statement read on her behalf, Brown says,
"I'm committed to live the rest of my life helping others, especially young people. My hope is to help other young girls avoid ending up where I have been."
I'm Andy Rose reporting.
Still to come on Currents News, a 9-year-old hero. Find out what this boy did that saved his grandfather's life. We'll be right back. He is just 9 years old, but people are already calling this boy a hero. His grandfather was suffering a medical emergency, but he stayed calm and knew exactly what to do.
He walked down the stairs and then stopped. And then he went down, he went over here, and then stopped.
Saturday afternoon, 9-year-old Kazin and his grandpa Alan were hanging out and about to head out to lunch when something went wrong.
And he was acting really strange. And I knew something was wrong because he was stepping all over the pedals and stuff. And I asked him, "Do you want me to call 911? He's like, he didn't answer me at all.
Kazin was sitting in the back seat waiting for his grandfather to start up the car to get some pizza, but nothing was happening.
I asked him, "Do you want me to call 911? He did not answer me all the 4 times that I asked him. I knew something was up.
Instead of panicking, the 4th grader says instinct took over. He got on the phone and dialed 911 immediately. Within minutes, police along with EMTs were at his home trying to figure out what Grandpa's medical emergency was. Turns out the 80-year-old is diabetic and had a hypoglycemic episode. Grandpa Grayson says if Kazin didn't step up, we'd be telling a very different story.
I saved his life or else he would have croaked.
If that had happened and I was here alone, they'd have buried me today.
I'm just very proud of myself and I'm happy he's still here.
I agree with everyone. He is a hero. Good for you, Kazin. That is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you so much for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.